Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They offer a wide selection of high-quality plants, landscaping materials, and home decor. They do amazing high-quality work and can help you transform your indoor and outdoor living spaces into something beautiful. So stop by Casey's Outdoor Solutions today and let them know you appreciate their support for Rock Solid Radio. Visit Casey's today at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. Hey, this is Merrill Hutchinson sitting alongside my partner in life and business. Hello, Linda Hutchinson. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Although, what's with the weather?
Oh, I know. I'm sporting my happy spring mug again because I'm trying to channel the springtime weather. It's been crazy around here in Southeast Indiana in April, so we're just going to leave it at that.
Well, no, I think we should point it out.
What?
On this day in April that we are recording this, it is actually snowing like a blizzard outside.
It is. So, but we're dating our show here. But
yeah.
Regardless of when you listen,
we woke
snow
up.
in April in Southeast Indiana is not. I mean, the blooms. I was so sad. Like the blooms I think are going to die. So we'd have to cover a lot of things to try to save our trees and our.
Yeah,
bushes,
we woke up today with about 2.5, 3 inches of snow on the ground here in Southeast Indiana.
So we're dragging. We're just going to tell you, we're dragging because it's like, this is not fair. I don't understand it. But
stop your whining. All right, so I'm feeling kind of old.
Why are you feeling old?
I'm feeling old because of the topic today. We're going to talk about trends in teens, or trends that we see in our culture, teens, young, or kids. And, think of the trends of things that we did as kids, and now those are kind of like long gone and away and whatever.
Okay, so I'm going to combine this week's show with last week's show because we were talking about disagreeing as a couple. So if you did miss that show, you definitely got to go back and check it out. But we've used this argument in one of our past shows.
Wait, are you going to bring up an argument?
Well, our doozy that we had when we were first married was all about this trend that was kind of out there.
I know where you're going.
About very bright colors. It was the days of Izods and polos.
Prep, everyone was a prepster.
It was preppy stuff, and so there was like bright blue and bright green. And so one of our first arguments as a married couple was when you went clothes shopping and I tried to get you to be trendy. And
trendy with I can't even use the word I was getting ready to use.
No, don't.
With these super blue,
they were bright
blue pants that Linda
Royal
wanted
blue.
me to wear. And I was like, just ain't happening.
But it was all about the fact that we were coming out of college and that was the trend. And so you weren't having the trend. As a matter of fact,
not that particular one.
No, you threw those pants across the store when I tried to buy them behind your back. And so
are you saying I was irrational?
When I was being very disrespectful to what you wanted to wear. And so from that day forward, we've decided that I don't buy your clothes.
We've gotten a lot of leverage or what's the story? A lot of work out of that.
A lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah, a lot of mileage. That's what I was looking for. A lot of mileage out of that story.
Yeah.
So, think about, we're going to talk about trends, and the reason why we're going to talk about trends is because some trends that we see today can sometimes be alarming or of concern to us as parents. So we're kind of directing this show to our parents today, and hopefully we can help you as you go through this. This may be the first time you're in the parenting thing, and so when you see something that you didn't see before or wasn't something that was a trend when you were growing up, it can raise cause for concern.
Yeah.
And some of them should be legit concerns, and maybe others should not be so much. And so we want to be careful when we walk through this. We don't want to be disrespectful, but we also want to help shine a light on maybe certain trends and maybe some that we should put some attention on, but maybe even what kind of attention we put on those.
Yeah. And we are parents of 5 children. 2 of them are grown, married, and have children, and 3 of them are still teenagers. And so even the span of our 30-year-old to our 13-year-old, we've seen trends change drastically. Right. And so what was a concern for our 30 and 27-year-old is nothing what our 17, 16, and 13 are dealing with. And so, yeah, trends change so quickly. And so we can't get wrapped up. We're not going to get wrapped up in the weeds of trends tonight in our message. That's not our point. Our point is what can we do as parents to help our kids really navigate the constant changing culture that we're dealing with? And how do we react as parents? Because sometimes we do things that really harm the situation more than help.
Yeah, can be for sure. So, you remember some of your trends? Some of your high school trends. What was hot?
Oh, man.
You are a little younger than me.
Yeah, just
like
about a couple
2 years.
But you know what? That's so funny you say that because Mackenzie and I were going clothes shopping the other day, and she was asking me about the stores that I bought my clothes from. And, I asked her, and hers are like American Eagle and, Aeropostale and those places. But for me, I was like, I don't know what stores. Shillito's, McAlpin's, Lazarus.
They've all been out of business for a few years.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't even ever heard of any of those, but it wasn't really name brand stuff more than it was big box stores that we would go to and buy our clothes from. But that's just not the trend right now. So very different.
Yeah. I remember.
How about you?
Well, so we had a lot of those trends and stuff too, but I kind of remember in high school. I graduated in 81, so I'll just go ahead and identify that.
Showing your age right there.
And pierced ears for guys was just starting to come around.
Did you have a pierced ear?
I never had a pierced ear. And what was so funny was you started to see a little bit of that in school. And so it was like, and everybody had their thought about a guy with a pierced ear. But then we had one guy who showed up, and he was in my chemistry class, and he was just a stud of a guy. Okay, like
did he have a stud earring with his stud?
He did,
Studness?
and he was. He was a tough guy that nobody would mess with. And he came in one day, and we were all like, pierced ears really, it's not bad, really. I'd consider it.
Man.
And so he kind of like in our school, there was definitely a little more traction.
Shift.
After he started showing up with one, because nobody was really going to have the nerve to really push the envelope on him.
Well, and that proves a point as really the trend sometimes depends on like who's kind of leading the trend and what your children are attracted to. And so we're really going to talk a little bit about that. But before we do, we really need to thank our sponsors.
Let's do that. So we'd like to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for coming alongside of Rock Solid Radio. So Casey deals with all kinds of landscape gifts, hardscapes, building walls and things like that. Just an amazing craftsman and hard worker. So for any of your landscaping or gift needs, contact Casey's Outdoor Solutions.
Yeah. We also want to thank Maxwell Construction, who has really been a huge community partner with Rock Solid Radio and Rock Solid Families since the very beginning when we were on the radio, our local radio station, before we turned it into just strictly a podcast. And so we want to thank Maxwell Construction. We also want to thank everyone out there who is listening and following for supporting Rock Solid Families, which really is kind of the mother group organization for
the mothership.
Please know that your encouragement and your support, your financial support and your prayers mean the world to us as we partner in this mission of strong and healthy families.
Yeah, if you're considering a charity or a nonprofit of some sort to do some ministry, please consider supporting us financially. That's our ask. We need you guys. Yeah. And so please go onto our website, rocksolidfamilies.org. There is a donate button on there. You help keep us moving and going and getting these kind of messages out. So come alongside of us.
Some people have asked, Hun, like, what does the money go toward? And so that's a great question. And so your financial support helps us to underwrite, the cost of meeting with our clients, because we charge a nominal fee that really doesn't cover the expenses of meeting with clients. And so we want to keep it affordable. We want to keep it reasonable for families out there, working class families who need the help but maybe can't afford it or don't get it free like some other groups do. And so we want to offer that. But we also, it helps us to, in our writing time of writing blogs and shows and events and those kind of things that, don't get paid for, but it helps to underwrite that.
That's right. So also just a reminder, as we are wrapping up the snowy days of April,
Don't remind me.
That April is our special
Thanks, Brian.
month for our prices on the finishing classes, the exercise classes. And so for the remaining months or days in April, please come and get that special $60 for 10 classes. You got a couple more days before this is over.
Yeah.
And so come on out and join us. And we've got our numbers are bumping up. That was very good.
You know, some people have called and asked about our services at Rock Solid Families, and they're really confused sometimes because they'll look on our website and they'll see that we have a gym and some fitness classes. And so they're kind of wondering, like, is this a gym or is this counseling or coaching or what is this? And really, we believe, hon, in mind, body, and spirit, and that we work on all three. And it's a three-legged stool. And when one's out of balance, the other ones have to compensate or they kind of suffer because of it. And so physical health, mental health, relational health, spiritual health, those are all really important facets of how we really have strong and healthy individuals and couples and families.
Yeah, it's where we like to, you work toward your gifts and to your interest, and that is one of mine in particular. And so if we can help people in those areas, then we want to use that. So, so that's why that is there. All right, so let's get into our topic, okay? Again, we said we thought let's talk about some of the trends because some of the things that come in our office, these trends that we're seeing, and we've talked about trends before in our shows in terms of, man, we're seeing a lot of this come in. But some of these now that we're going to talk about today are more what we're seeing with the younger people, even from the young teens,
preteens,
even preteens up through young adulthood. And sometimes when you look at these, you think, oh my gosh, this is not a good thing. So we really want to wrap our head around some of these. Some of them are, they're obvious. Some of them are not. And some of them we might talk about and you've seen them, but we might want to talk about some of the repercussions that we're seeing out of them. So like the very first one, screen time.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we seeing with screen time?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about this, hon. The kids today, our teenagers, have never not known about a screen. We've had smartphones since they've been alive. And so because of that, we have a greater amount of kids living on the screen and they think that's very normal. And so as a matter of fact, did you know that there's such thing called esports?
Oh, yeah.
And so there's some kids out there who, just like we used to think that we want to be professional volleyball players or baseball players, they're thinking they want to be professional gamers. And so they think the more they game, the better they'll get and the more chance they can do to get a college scholarship or to do it professionally. And so just like we grew up with those dreams, we don't want to squelch our kids' dreams. We don't want to laugh at them and dismiss them because really what we do is just shut down our kids when we just laugh and make fun of the things that they see as their goals or dreams. But we're going to talk about how to deal with them later. But the screens are obviously one of the things that we see.
Yeah, and with the screens, what comes with that. So we want to take a look at the bigger picture, in particular, the sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah, we did a whole show on that. If you didn't get a chance to listen to that, where we had a expert from Children's Hospital that works with kids dealing with just physical activity and just getting them moving.
Yeah. And so that's definitely a big thing that we're seeing. We don't always just see it with kids. Their parents come in and the very first thing that they talk about, as well as all they do, is sit over there and play video games. And so that creates also then a frustration. So you see more frustration in the homes because the kids are not as active. The kids are less engaged. So we've talked about this before, that whole idea when you're talking to your kid and instead of them giving you eye contact, they're staring at a screen. Yeah. We go to restaurants and you look across the restaurant and you see an entire family and the entire family isn't talking. They're looking at a screen. So there are lots of different things that we see that come out of that: depression, isolation, increased body weight. So lots of different things. And I think the concern with the screens are like, what does that play out to be long term? You know?
Instead of making them happy in the moment or giving you a break right now, think about, if we continue to do this trend, how's that going to play out? How's that going to play out for your relationship? How's that going to play out for their mental health? How's that going to play out for their physical body health? So we've got to really think long term, not just in the moment like we sometimes do.
So I want to, add to, so it's hard to see your kid who's maybe 13, 14, 15 years old, and they're really wrapping themselves into a lot of screen time. So, what's the big deal? Well, now we are actually seeing on a pretty regular basis our 25 to 35-year-old, and I'm just going to call it out, mostly men, who they're coming in and their marriage is struggling. And one of the complaints that you will see or that we hear is they go over and they just play video games all night or all day or whatever.
And they have a wife and they have children.
Yeah. And so now this is one of the repercussions.
Right.
And so, now listen, it used to maybe be softball. They come home and they get their softball equipment and they just go play softball. Listen, we're not saying either one of those are good. We're talking about the balance and talking about the priority. And so people drift into what seems to be easiest and just feels good first.
And those screens are also our younger kids. And we're talking 7, 8, 9-year-old children who have sucked themselves into that world so young and so fast and so much that they are seeing things that they shouldn't be seeing. They're trying to manage and navigate this world of depression and anxiety and all of these messages that they are not in their maturity ready to handle. And so we are seeing a trend, Hun, of a lot younger kids and their parents coming in for anxiety and depression. As a matter of fact, I had one mom said, she gave me a definition of depression. I swear she got off the internet because she doesn't even use those words. And that's exactly what she's doing. She's hearing her friends are depressed and they're anxious. And this little girl doesn't even know what anxious means. So we really have got to unplug our kids. We've got to help them have a balance of inside, outside action, activity, so that screens don't dominate. So
what is your place with the screens? Mom and Dad, you got to step up, okay? We're not saying no, never. We're saying it is time. We've talked about this before. Do you really want the government coming in and setting regulations for you? That's your job. They are your kids. You go in, you'd like the government or somebody else to come over and be the bad guy and say, hey, you can only see a screen 2 hours a day or whatever. But how about you? How about you just step up? You know how this is going to play out. We're starting to get enough evidence now that suggests some long-term harmful things that are coming out of our screens, whether it's at the relationship expense, whether it's at lacking social skills, whether it's a sedentary lifestyle, whatever that is, you play that out. And then you say, okay, how do we adjust in our home? And, so we have screen time limits on our kids. And that's actually pretty easy to do with a lot of the phones and stuff today. And it's not that you have to be the screen Nazi about it, but you're trying to manage this so that we're disciplined now so they can self-discipline. So that they can eventually get to that point. Like our older sons, they came up with video games and everything. And we managed that. They played a little bit. And now they are in their late 20s and 30s. And they're like, it's just there's better things to do with our time. So they've learned to put it in its proper place.
Yeah. And so we're asking you to step up. And honestly, it is not about violent video games. Don't get me wrong. This is about screen time, period.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about coming off of a year of e-learning and remote learning, where our kids were sitting in front of a screen already for 6 to 8 hours, then you're talking add that to whatever they're doing for fun with gaming and, social media. And so, oh my goodness, our children are really, their brains are being rewired. We actually did a whole show on this, Hun, a podcast called Parenting in a Tech-Heavy World. We encourage you to go back and check that out. We got more specific about what we're seeing and how you can do something different.
Yeah. Let's move on to a new trend, okay? And this is a trend that wasn't around at all when I
didn't even know what it was.
Okay. And so this is a trend that we call vaping. All right. And so basically this is just sort of like smoking, right? And it's that whole idea of electronic cigarettes or a way of taking in usually nicotine through a vapor, and the kids can get the stimulation or whatever it is from that vapor through the device that they're using. Okay.
Yeah.
So now think back. I mean, I was never a smoker.
Me either.
Grew up around lots of smokers.
Me too.
Okay. And when smoking became very big, when our parents were in their teen years.
Yeah.
So when
12,
we talk
13,
to
14 years old.
Yeah, when we talk to our parents, my dad started in his early teens, your parents started in their early teens. And so it was kind of the vaping of the 1940s and 50s and 60s.
They could buy them right there in the store.
I
There was no
remember,
limit.
I'll confess, Dunkin' Donuts over where I lived.
Dunkin'
Yes,
Donuts?
Dunkin' Donuts had a cigarette vending machine.
Oh,
and
you just
me and
get
my
'em.
buddies would go in there, and for 50 cents, we never really, we played with the cigarettes. We didn't. But again, that's where we were, and there was not much regulation of that. There wasn't those kind of things in place. And so, again, we're not saying cigarettes are good. Obviously,
Or
the
vaping.
research has shown it's not, okay? But to get out in front of it, vaping is that right now. And people are the kids are, this is exciting. It's cool. They're experimenting with it, okay?
Yeah.
One of the things that with the vaping that like when we dealt with that and are dealing with that actually with our own kids, there's a law against it.
Yeah,
So it's illegal, up until I think it's 18.
I don't know.
And so that whole idea of being able to purchase and all of that, our school has made a statement about it in their handbook, and essentially they treat it as a tobacco product. And so whether it's suspensions or whatever they would do with tobacco, that's what they do with vaping. So here's the deal. It is the cool trend. Your kids are hearing about it, talking about it. I see it across the board, whether they're athletes and jocks, whether they are just hanging out in the band. It is the cool thing. So what are we going to do? All right. And we have to teach our kids, listen, first off, it is illegal.
Right.
Okay. And so the repercussions from that are stuff that, like when my dad was smoking cigarettes, the only illegal part was what his dad thought about it.
Yeah.
Okay. There was no law against it. And so if you had a parent who was somewhat permissive or didn't know about it, you could get by without any problem. Our kids today have a lot more to lose through their vaping. And especially I think of the kids like that are involved in extracurriculars like sports, that could be costing them
Game
their
changers.
athletics.
Yeah. And the problem is that, this is kind of a size that you could get some of that into. It looks like a little jump drive. And so it's so small and it's odorless, and so it's very easy to hide and to put in your pocket. And now we're seeing that they're using it with other drugs like marijuana. And so, it's just a slippery slope, but it is a trend. It's one that we don't want to overreact and condemn them as if they're horrible kids, because I think back to a lot of the stupid things we did as teenagers. And so, but we just want to realize that, we want to have those conversations with our students and our kids, teens, to let them know that, there's natural consequences for your decisions. And that might mean you getting kicked off of a team or getting suspended from school, or getting grounded at home.
The real things too, the medical things.
Yeah.
It's an addictive property that we will deal with in nicotine. And so are you really ready to deal with addiction at a level that's going to alter really kind of how you're going to function? It's the expense, the expense of cigarettes today. I heard somebody say the other day that a carton of cigarettes was $70.
Oh my gosh.
That's like $7 for a pack of cigarettes in the
crazy.
carton. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
holy cow. So again, there's just all these other factors that we as parents, rather than going crazy and saying, you're going to hell because you're vaping, it's like wrap your head around it.
Yeah.
Get to the science the best you can on it, and really help your kids understand, okay, remember, these are we used to always say, and my dad used to say this, these are, you're playing big boy games. You're going to pay big boy prices.
Yeah. So another topic, a trend that we're seeing, and we really are going to hit this more in a couple weeks. We're going to talk about it specifically, but that's this whole idea of our gender identity, our sexual identity, and this confusion that's going on. And with a lot of girls, especially preteen girls that haven't gone through puberty yet, and her best friend tells her that that's because you are a pansexual or a bisexual, or you are, non-binary, and all of these different things. And it's blowing our parents' minds when they hear their kids talk about that. Like, I have a girl crush, or I'm gay, or I'm bi. And so we see this highly sexualized culture at such a young age. If someone had told me at age 13 that my best friend was a girl, so that must mean that I don't like boys, I don't know what I would have done. I might have believed them. Maybe even it was like 10 or 11, but that's the kind of things our kids are seeing. And so I'm not dismissing the LGBTQ community. I'm saying that the trend right now for our little guys is that there's very much confusion for our younger kids trying to figure out their sexuality. Do they call themselves a he or a she? Do they wear girl clothes, boy clothes? And so we're going to really break that down a little bit more in several weeks when we handle that topic specifically.
It is such a huge topic. I mean, we've mentioned this before. We're in a basically kind of a rural area, and it doesn't matter because of the internet. Whether you live in the inner city or not, kids are seeing and hearing it everywhere. Okay, and so the desensitization of that topic is real, and all of our kids are getting exposure to it. I think this is kind of like, let's be honest with this part. Like the idea, we don't see a whole lot of anorexia coming into our office anymore. I'm not saying it's not out there, but I remember coming into the late 80s and early 90s.
Huge.
That was a thing, and that was primarily with young girls.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And every other girl was experiencing eating disorders and anorexic sort of things going on, and now that has really. We don't hardly hear about it at all, and now we hear a lot of
trend.
And so this is the new thing. And again, what it comes down to, parents out there listening, there's a lot of confusion in young people with identity on lots of levels, lots of different identity things like, well, who am I? What am I? What is my purpose? And this is a natural questioning thing. And so to jump into permanent changes is extremely dangerous. I mean, some of these things that we see kids entertaining and parents not being
supporting.
Parents, come on, we have to use some common sense because across the history of mankind, puberty years are very confusing.
Difficult, period.
And so this is not a good time to make lifelong decisions. This is a time to think and to grow through them. And again, we're not dismissing anything. At the end of the day, maybe something comes out that somebody does have a very significant challenge with their sexual identity, but the teen years is not the time to make permanent changes.
A lot of our teens are dealing with this slower maturity and not being willing and ready to handle the responsibilities of driving, getting a job, moving out, going to college. There are some crazy, scary trends going on with our teens where they are petrified of getting a license. You and I could not wait till we turned 16. We were the day of going out and getting our license. And we've got 17, 18, 19-year-old kids who refuse to go get a license. Where's that coming from? And so I think that as parents, we got to take responsibility that we've got to let go slow of our kids, but we've got to be kind of like that mother bird where we push them out of the nest to a point where they can fly. And if we don't push them out of the nest, whether that be, hey, if you want those American Eagle jeans, you're going to have to go get a job, J-O-B job, to pay for them. Not, I'll buy you this and I'll buy you that, and you don't have to go get a job. We're not teaching our kids personal responsibility.
So that trend of slowing maturely is seen in a lot of different areas, with the driver's license, with the slow to get the first job, with remember the movie that was Failure to Launch.
Launch.
All of a sudden, you hear all these talks over the last few years of the 25-year-old or the 30-year-old living in their parents' basement. This is a trend, and it is a trend that deals with the slowing and maturity, but the maturity part is really the lack of acceptance of responsibility. Why do they not accept the responsibility? Because it's not being handed to them, or because they don't have the tools to deal with it. But that is on us as parents to recognize, like, what am I doing or not that is putting my kid in a place where they're not feeling confident enough to take care of themselves. Okay. And so that is a big trend that we see. And that, again, we can't blame our kids for this. Like, if I see a 25-year-old living in his parents' basement, he's only doing what works for him. We set him up that way.
Yeah.
I really need, as a parent, to step back and say, how did this happen? What do I need to do? And then get a plan to help them carry that responsibility. If you want to avoid that challenge, start it young.
Yeah.
Okay, start it young. So, like, hun, we're really big on the idea, we want our kids driving when they're 16. Listen, there's scary things out there, but that's ours to deal with. But it's also the gift to them to taking on the responsibility and learning how to manage it.
With freedom comes responsibility.
Yes.
Let's talk about the dating world real quick, because I see an interesting positive trend in this, because when you and I remember dating one-on-one at age 14, 15. My mom let me date way too young. I don't think she listens, but if she did, because she couldn't figure out the internet. But Mom, I feel like I dated too young, and we went on these dates, these car dates.
Was it with me?
No, that's because I didn't know you then. If I had known you, then I would have dated you.
Oh, whoa.
But I see a difference now. I see groups of kids going out. I see them dating as a group together. And I see that as a positive trend, where we're not singling out, we're not putting ourselves maybe at risk, that hopefully we kind of learn how to socialize together in a healthy way, so that when you do find that right person, you've kind of gotten a chance to meet other guys or other girls in a group setting maybe.
Yeah, we definitely see that there's slower to date. I think there's the other side of that, though, which is, I think, culturally evolving, is that teens are slower to date, but once they're dating, they're faster to the bedroom.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And so that sort of understanding of, okay, wait, what's the right way to do this? And when we say right way, God's nature has consequences. Yeah. And when we have these sort of things that happen, when we have couples that get together, young couples, and they're not ready to be married, or they don't really love each other the way they need to, then they end in messy things. And again, that's God's nature.
Yeah, and so we could go on all day about the different trends, but we kind of want to wrap this up and really talk to you as parents about how we respond, because at the end of the day, you're not going to know every trend. Things are going to change from the time you watch the show till the next day. And so the point is that you want to stay in relationship with your child, with your teen. You don't want to shut them down and push them away by telling them they're stupid, or that's a dumb idea, or what were you thinking? I mean, you got to connect with them and keep in conversation, small little conversations. Don't condemn them, all right? But do keep some healthy limits. For instance, the screens, keep it out off the dinner table, keep it out of the car, keep it where you keep conversation. One of the things we've had to do with our teens is that the phones kind of get put away when we're driving, where we're eating together, because that's where conversation comes in. And if they're buried with their face in the screen, then you're going to miss huge opportunities to connect with them. And that's super important.
Yeah. As you said, hon, this is not time for panic. This is time to basically put your faith and your science and all of these things together and work through each one of these. All right. There's some really cool trends that go on too. And the reason why these trends are in the positive light is because people have taken the time to keep the relationship with their kids, learn about the science, incorporate their faith. Yep. We see teenage pregnancy dropping. We actually see drug and alcohol use dropping. I know that sounds crazy, but especially like I consider back in our era, especially alcohol use was very high. And so through educating people, how about smoking cigarettes? Those kind of things drop. And they do because people actually go, okay, wait, is this turning out to be a good thing or not? And so it's not time for panic. It's time to look at the real effects of this. What are the results going to be? And step up as a parent and start to educate our kids. And so when you educate them on this, you can empower them. That does not mean that they will lose free will.
Yeah. And don't save them. There needs to be natural consequences for their bad decisions, for their poor choices, for their expensive, trendy clothing that they want to buy. And so please do not save them. That's not going to help them. Help them to learn what their responsibilities are, help them to understand what the consequences could be, keep in conversation, stay engaged, keep loving on them, don't panic. In the end of the day, they're going to grow up just like you and I grew up, despite the things that we tried to do that maybe weren't the best decisions.
If you are in a situation where you are struggling, where you are nervous about where your kids are, come and see us, all right? Because chances are we've either dealt with it already, or we're working through those things with other families, other couples. So come in, even if you just bounce it off of us as, I just want another set of ears on this, because hopefully we can get some perspective. We can help elevate whether it needs more work or less attention or whatever. And so come see us at Rock Solid Families, and hopefully we can help you.
Yeah.
And hey, here's the bottom line, and this is what really should sit in every parent, and this is why we are faith-based. In Proverbs 22:6, direct your children onto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it. Guys, the basic idea behind this is when people go out and want to test God's nature, God says, go ahead, do that. But his nature doesn't change just because you go out and test it. Those natural consequences will happen. And when they start to happen, and you need to let your kid experience those, okay? The kids will go back and eventually realize, this probably wasn't a good thing, and they will return back to the path that you showed them when they were young. And so this is so critical. And we see this across the board. And sometimes we don't want them to have to go through those bumps and bruises, but they're part of it.
Yeah. So as we close, we just want to, again, thank you for listening. If you are a parent of a teen out there, can we just tell you we are in the trenches with you, and we are praying for you, and we are here to help and support you in the right path as loving on them and encouraging them, but also holding them accountable. So call us at 812-576-7625, or you can contact us through rocksolidfamilies.org. We want to thank again our sponsors, Maxwell Construction and Casey's Outdoor Solutions, for coming alongside Rock Solid Radio and supporting positive messages for you as a parent and for our community.
All right, Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day. I think I'm going to bring some bell bottoms or something back. Yeah, that was a cool trend.
How about the polo?
No, that was no.
Blue pants?
I'm going to going to bell bottoms. I think that would be cool.
Well. Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Maxwell Construction, who has been our sponsor since the very beginning. For over 30 years, Maxwell has delivered the highest quality projects by holding to their core values of customer satisfaction, positive attitude, respect, and excellence. So if you have any kind of commercial construction need, give Maxwell Construction a call today at 812-537-2200.